Welcome back to part 17 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we're going to speak to the Garif and find out, hopefully, how we can actually power up the Dawn Shard to use this as a weapon against Arcadia. Because we can't really announce our freedom from them without some kind of power to defend our claim. But as you approach the Garif here, they will attempt to send you on your way, but adventurers of the Garif that happen to be wandering around will come up and defend you and say, no, we saw them around, they're admiral fighters, if they want to come in they should be allowed in. What business have you with the Garif? Nod. Let them pass, responsibility will be mine. If that is your wish, War Chief, then you may pass. These days see many humans wandering through our lands. You're going to be seeing the land of the Garif a fair amount if you're going for 100%, because there is a healthily large number of marks that involve the Garif wanting you to get something. Like when you start hunting down the last of the marks and the elite marks, you're going to see me come back here a lot. So learn the layout of the land a little bit now, because it will save time later on. There's also a cartographer you can find here, where you can buy a map for not only the Garif land itself, but also the Osman Plains. And although I haven't really mentioned them that much, in almost every new zone there is a cartographer you can find, usually in the closest safe haven to it. And what I mean, and the reason why I'm making this point, is that there is a point where we return back to the Esther Sands for whatever reason it is when we get to it. And parts of the map will be there that I haven't explored, because I've gone to visit the cartographer and the outpost that was right at the very top, where we used the orange crystal to warp down to Rabanaste originally once we got out of the caves. There's a cartographer there, and I brought the map for the Esther Sands off screen, so we now have the entirety of the map viewable even if we can't get everywhere there. So there'll be a huge chunk to the land to the north that you can see every time I bring up the map there, but you just can't get to. But if you go around and talk to everyone will have various little things to say. I don't know if you can have a hunt already ready for here, but yeah, might be, so feel free to talk to everyone. The shop here is very much worth your time. The resources that they sell here is going to be a step above what you have got so far. However, there is a temptation to say hold off a second, because there are going to be other ways of getting better stuff in not too distant a future. So if you want to save some gil, it might be worth holding off. But everyone here has something to say, and that war chief we just spoke to will give us an item that will allow us to speak with the elder at the end of the path, because we will only get to go so far. And you'll see, I'll check, because I was like, I'm sure there's one here, and yeah, it's in the next zone. So you see that as an opportunity to move on, because we've got everything we need to do. If you talk to the war chief over here, we can give him the Yaya stick that we were given from that previous chief, and that will allow us to pass on through. It's just a simple way of the game trying to get you to talk to everyone. Like, it's not an advanced thing, it's talk to one person, go talk to the chief that you need to do, but it's to convince you to speak to everyone of the Garif, to learn of their ways and how they function. And Ash here will fight a little for herself and say, no, I need to know more, because I am a descendant of Wraithful. If the Garif who possess ancient knowledge have any kind of knowledge of the stone, I wish to know. Do you have proof of your heritage? I do not. I have looked into the eyes and seen you speak the truth, human child. I give you my trust. The great war chief is ahead across this bridge. I guess it's supposed to be part of the meanings that the Garif are such wise old beings that even without genuine proof they can see into your heart almost to know whether you're speaking the true or the lie. But over here is the guy you can talk to for the hunt, so I might as well pick it up now. I always try and make an effort to pick up the marks as soon as possible, because later in the game there'll be a point where you'll pick up the marks for areas you've yet to visit. So you'll pick them up, but then you'll just do the hunts as you progress through the game normally, so you might as well. And the Encaladus is an interesting one, because I mentioned it last part. It's in the Osman Plain, but the area of the Osman Plain that it is in, it will not appear there until every single enemy is dead or you've left and come back. It is another one of those, similar to the cockatrice that we dealt with earlier. Thankfully though, this one isn't as annoying as the cockatrice one can be. Because the cockatrice one has a healthy selection of enemies, and it's a healthy size, so you can sometimes just miss the odd one enemy, because some of them spawn after certain enemies are defeated anyway. Whilst in this one, the area is far smaller and there's only about 3 or 4 enemies, so if you just kill them all, circle the camera around, see if any more respawn, and then leave and re-enter, you'll be good. It's not that bad, thankfully. This is also around the time where I start considering my equipment choices, because as much as I wanted Ash to be a level stronger, I started to become aware that she was getting almost too much stronger. Also, we got long bolts for Balthir's crossbow, which is great because it has a chance to cast slow, and slow is a great friend to you at any stage in the game because it can halve the speed of which enemies attack. But when you're ready, approach these Garif and you can speak to them to approach the Great Elder Chief.
This nethicite. You have used it.
It was not I who used it. Indeed, I had hoped you could show me how. Thus I've come.
You do not know the workings of the stone. Then we are no different.
What?
In ages past, the gods made a gift of nethicite to my people. But the manner of its use eluded us. Displeased by our failure, the gods took back their stones. They chose instead to give them to a Yum king. Called the Dynast King, he used the nethicite's power to bring peace to a troubled time. It is a curious thing. Though the blood of King Wraithwolf flow through your veins, you cannot wield nethicite.
Cannot wield it? So then, am I to understand you can't tell me how to use the stone?
Though it shame me so to admit, here before me stands a descendant of the Dynast King himself, and I can accord her no help at all. Still, even if you knew how to use the nethicite, you would find it of small avail. The mist collected in the stone over ages past is lost, and with it, the stone's power. It will be your posterity who will the stone in ages yet to come. This stone is devoid of power, empty, yet full of thirst. A terrible longing to drink the world dry. The power of man and of magic, of good and of evil. It is often those who desire nethicite whom the nethicite itself desires.
Larsa? To Baromi says.
I say we ought leave tomorrow. I was going to wait for my escort to return, but meeting you here has presented a great opportunity. This terrible war can be stopped, but I will need your help to do so.
A war?
You know the Marquis Ondor leads a group of insurgents. Your pardon. He leads a large resistance force against the Empire. Lady Ash, neither of our countries can afford this now. The Rosarian Empire would stir. They would aid the resistance and use this aid as a pretext to declare war on Arcadia, and Arcadia would have no choice but to answer. Lady Ash, let us go to Ber Omases. With the blessing of His Grace, the Grand Kiltius Anastasis, you may rightly wear your crown and declare the restoration of the Kingdom of Dalmasca. As Queen, you can call for peace between the Empire and Dalmasca and stop Marquis Ondor.
For peace. How dare you say that? The Empire attacked us, stole all we hold dear, and you would have me save them from war?
Dalmasca would be the battlefield. What if Nethicite were used on Rabanasta? You know my brother would do this. Forgive me. I presumed overmuch. I could think of no other way to avoid bloodshed. If you cannot trust me, then please, take me as your hostage.
Rustler.
You saw him, didn't you? Like at the King's tomb.
So you did see him too. But why?
It's strange. Before, I didn't even know what you looked like. And the prince? I barely knew there was a prince. Who knows? Maybe the person I saw was my brother.
Bosch told me about him.
He enlisted right at the end. But for what? He knew he couldn't win.
To protect something.
How can he protect anything when he's dead? Was it different for Prince Rastler? Did that make sense? Hating the Empire, getting revenge, it's all I ever thought about. But I never did anything about it. I mean, I realized there was nothing I could do. It made me feel hollow, alone. And then, I'd miss my brother. I'd say stuff like, I'm gonna be a sky pirate, or some other stupid thing. Just anything to keep my mind off it. I was running away. I needed to get away from his death. That's why I followed you. You know what? I'm through with it. I'm through running. I'm ready to find my purpose. To find some real answers. Some reasons. If I stick with you, I think I will.
I wish I knew.
I'll find them.
I will accompany you to Mount Baromises.
I had hoped you'd say yes. I'm glad.
My heart is not set. I still have questions. I hope to find answers along the way.
I had other reason to invite you. There is someone I'd like you to meet, waiting on Baromises.
Who is that?
An enemy, and an ally also. You will just have to wait and see for yourself.
That Larsa likes his secrets.
He does not mean ill by it.
He's not bad. At least for an Imperial.
Holy Mount Baromises stands at the northern end of the Jagd Remuda. Once we're in Jagd, we need not fear pursuit by their airships.
Don't get your hopes up. You remember the Leviathan sailed straight over the Jagd right up to Wraithel's tomb. Skystone that works even in Jagd. You know, Nethicite's behind it. Little wonder they're so keen on the stuff.
And what is it you're after, Balthier? You're a welcome hand and a great aid, but why?
Worried I'm out to steal the Nethicite, eh? Can't say I'm unaccustomed to people doubting my intentions. Nothing could be further from my mind. Shall I swear by your sword or some such?
Apologies, but I needed to know where you stand. Her Majesty depends on you, and you seem to have an interest in the stone.
I'm only here to see how the story unfolds. Any self-respecting leading man would do the same.
And thus our next objective is presented before us. We're off to Bert Omises. But the more interesting thing is that Larsa will accompany you as a guest all the way until you get to Bert Omises. So, you make the most of that. There is a significantly large stretch of the game that you have a guest party member. Yes, Larsa isn't the greatest guest member you're going to get in the world. His stats are not the highest. But you're really going to turn down having a fourth party member for a while. Also, the War Chief here will give you the ability to call in a chocobo, so we can now finally ride one. And our first ride is completely free. Not that it matters, because it's only like 20 to 30 gil to afford a chocobo in the first place, but you can buy them. We also got the recurve crossbow, so you feel free to use that as an upgrade. You're going to see me save here, but then cut to me going back in because I forgot to check the shop. Simply put, I finished that recording and went, hang on a minute, I never actually checked the shop, so I head back to check to see if there's anything of interest that I would like. The first thing that you should always check is always your magics, because Tier 2 Fire, Bleed and Stoner are going to be pretty cool. Being able to get rid of Stone / Petrified through magic will save so much on the panic to have to make sure you've got a gold needle. The rest of the stuff here though, it's just like, as I said before, it is a step up from what you've got, but you'll see as I go, there's a certain degree of hesitancy I have to buy some of it, because I know we're going to get better soon. Like, I eventually just play it safe and get it anyway, because I know I'm about to sell off a lot of stuff, and because I'm only using half the party, not like the whole 6 and trying to alternate between them, I have a lot more money to spare because I'm only like using hand-me-downs to the rest of the cast essentially. So and things like the crossbow then can get sold on because I know I'm not going to be using it anymore. The shell shield, even when it starts to become very worn out of its welcome, I decide to keep around anyway because having like the extra magic defense by having shell permanently cast on you is always going to have its place eventually, even if your actual base stat line is going to be low, taking a hit from it because of the better magic stuff we'll be getting later on. Additionally, some of the extras that I know I'm just not going to be using that much start to go as well. Also, the Gashel greens, you're going to see me hesitate, but later on you're going to see me sell them, and that, now I've played later on and remember, there are actually chocobos later on in the game that you can give Gashel greens to. I was wrong last part when I said that you can just buy them. You can just buy them, but there are the occasional chocobo that you can interact with that isn't counted as an enemy in any sense of the word. And those ones you can give Gashel greens to. You never need a Gashel green to access any area that is mandatory for the game, but there are secrets and extra things as such that you can't get without getting a chocobo in specific spots. And those chocobos will only get to those specific spots if you find them there already using Gashel greens. If you buy one, you'll only be able to get you so far, because chocobos will refuse to enter any kind of cave or heavily dangered environment. Normal dangerous environments aren't too bad. Like if we go across the ultimate plane with the chocobo, we'll be fine. But there's a mine to the bottom right called the hen mines. If you try and enter there, the chocobo will stop dead in its tracks. There's a jungle to the top right that I've mentioned last part that we'll be heading to soon. If you try and get the chocobo there, it will stop just before you enter. Like, it will go across like semi-dangerous environments or more open spaces like this, but it will not go into cave or more endangered environments. And because of that, sometimes an area that would benefit having a chocobo in is just barely out of range. You're going to see I double checked the hunt. I was like, well, hang on a minute, there's no enemy here. Because if you read it, it says it will go into hiding if there are other monsters nearby. So you kill them all, leave and re-enter, it will have appeared. And it's not too difficult of a hunt. From this point onwards, for a large chunk of the game, the normal hunts in the game aren't going to be that tough. And this will continue all the way to an area called the Salika Wood far later in the game, where the hunts start to pick up again in difficulty. It's the elite hunts that will be your worry for a lot of the chunk of the game, and the main reason why the main hunts are going to be easier for a long chunk is because you've got a 4th party member. Even if you're not as high a level as I've ended up being because I'm doing everything, you're still going to have a far easier time against these because it's 4 people in action. Well, as you can see, even though it's tried to boost itself and it's trying to heal itself, look how quickly it's dying. When you compare it to some of the earlier hunts and how determined they were to survive, these ones are falling apart far quicker. And we get proof of our accomplishment as well, so we can bring it back to the Garif to let him know and get our reward. Laster, as said before, you can't adjust his stats because he's a guest character, but you can adjust his gambits. And you might want to do that because his starting gambits are kind of weird and will burn through your own resources. Because he has a gambit where it's like, if ally health drops below a certain percentage, heal them. But then he also has a gambit that says, if myself drops below a certain percentage, use a potion. And you're like, whoa, hang on, what? Don't use a potion. Heal yourself, you've got Cura. But as you get to more difficult environments, you might want to try and stock up on ethers. And if you're thinking to yourself, what, you can't, there's nowhere to buy them, that's why you want to do the hunts. Because the clan shop that's just south of Montblanc's place will eventually start selling ethers if you get your rank high enough, and you want to stock up on ethers so that in turn you can make it a gambit. You can make a gambit if magic points drops below a certain percentage, use an ether, so then your magic users can stay in the battle instead of them just dropping to 0 and losing their worth. Suddenly you have to try and catch up to them. Also, yeah, this is around the point where I felt like Ash was starting to run away a little with her levels. Like, I wanted her to be stronger, but I was like, she's starting to kind of run away with it. So I equip it to Bash instead, and then later on, I equip it to Balthier, so then everyone can start catching up in levels and get the same push they need. It also kind of cuts down on grind work, which is why I didn't mind so much. But if you talk to Gertie over here, Gertie is your Chocobo man, essentially. Gertie is always the one you want to find in areas to get a Chocobo. The Chocobo, like in previous incarnations in the series, is completely avoidant of encounters. No enemy will attack you whilst you're on the Chocobo's back. What's different to this one though is that you only have it for a time limit. As you can see, there is a clock ticking down, and when it hits 0 the Chocobo will leave and run away. But there are these areas here where there's thicker grass and Chocobo tracks that only being on a Chocobo can travel through. Which is why I said earlier about you want to kind of keep a Gashel green. Don't do what I do later on and sell them thinking I won't need them, because I just completely forgot that there'll be wild Chocobos in secret areas. I have to hunt down Gashel greens elsewhere later on. And that's not too bad. If you do what I do and sell the Gashel greens, the Chocobos in this area, the wild ones that you can attack, have a chance of dropping Gashel greens, and if you're getting unlucky with the drops, just keep on robbing from them. Just keep on stealing. And because this area is in between 2 Chocobo tracks, there's actually a wild Chocobo here that you don't even need a Gashel green to, because they know if you couldn't get a Gashel green, you'd be dead gamed in here. Your only alternative would be to go into this hen mines in front of us, which you might not be able to do if you're not far enough in the plot, as you just saw there, to get access to its orange crystal. Assuming you even have a teleporting stone, because if you don't have a teleporting stone, you'd still be screwed. So there's just a free Chocobo, like just free of range, that's scared and wants to return home, that you can use to get out from the other exit, taking you pretty close to the save point that's in the top right here, where we want to go next anyway, because it's on the way to Beronimes. I also, for the sake of it, show off the sprint, which is cool. You can only do it 3 times, but it is great for just getting a move on.
Success.
Wow, I'm impressed, Vaughn.
I got a good feeling.
An alliance between Dalmasca and the Empire.
Reason tells me 'tis the only course. We must avoid a wasting war with the Empire at all cost. Yet I fear I could not bear the shame, had I but the strength.
A shame perhaps for me and for you. But for Dalmasca it is hope.
And you can just accept this, can you?
After Vane's ruse, I had abandoned hope for honor. Yet never did I forget my knightly vows. If I could protect but one person from war's horror, then I would bear any shame. I would bear it proudly. I could not defend my home, What is shame to me?
My people hate the Empire. They will not accept this.
There is hope.
Right?
Don't encourage
Hope for a future where we can
Not
join
that bad,
hands
am I?
I
as
got a
brothers.
good feeling.
Larson, please. This is serious.
I'm sorry.
Don't be Larsa. Somebody's got to put him in his place.
The Senate may play at intrigue, but Lord Vane is not one to be brought down easily. The entire military waits upon his orders, from the War Council down to the rank and file. What better blade than he to strike down the enemies of the Empire?
Your Honor reminds me of Zet 2 years since. He, too, put his trust in Lord Vane's strength, and what became of him? Gone without a trace since Nabudis.
I will not hear you malign Judge Sect. He was a noble warrior. Or do you think his trust in Lord Vane ill-placed?
Vane took 2 of his own brothers' lives. He is ruthless beyond contempt.
Ruthless, you say? Would he were more so. He gives traitors no quarter, be they of his own blood. How fitting for one who would bear the burden of empire.
But could we bear him? Zagabath, what of you? Surely you do not believe his brothers were traitors?
So found His Excellency Lord Gramis, you would do well to mind your tongue, Drace. That matter is long past.
Your Honors, a summons. Lord Vane has arrived at the palace.
We come at once.
Lord Larsa has left for Baromises. He hopes to enlist the aid of the Grand Kiltius in stopping the insurgents. I doubt this will be enough to deter Ondor, but even a slight hindrance to his operations would be welcome. This will delay the Rosarian invasion, and we will have bought much-needed time to shore up our defenses.
Just as His Excellency had hoped.
No matter the result, I'm pleased with the young lord's progress. I can already see the stunned faces of those mud-witted senators. The fools think a child emperor's strings easy to pull from the shadows. But they will find that Lord Larsa is no puppet.
Yes, the senators would be most pleased with a puppet for an emperor. Recall, Drace, how the Senate fears and despises Lord Vane's ability. When they realize the truth, that Lord Larsa is no docile lamb to be shepherded, they will bare their teeth and devour him.
You're right. I shall speak on this matter with His Excellency at once. Gabranth, it falls to us to protect Lord Larsa. Are we agreed?
Aye.
It seems that Judge Drace and Judge Gabranth are in agreement that Lord Larsa is the top priority. Meanwhile, the other judges seem slightly less caring towards the idea. Seem more focused on Vane taking over as a ruthless dictating leader with raw power at his side to bear the Empire and be the force it needs to be. But that force is always going to make resistance and chaos and needless deaths, which is something that I think Judge Drace is catching on to and was what she was speaking about during that scene. Drace is aware that this can be stopped if a proper leader steps up instead. Someone like Lord Larsa here. Larsa would be a far more worthy leader than Vane would, because he understands compassion. He understands his own viewpoint on the world. He isn't someone to be pulled along by the strings by a Senate. But how it will all turn out and what will become of these judges, what will become of Vane and what will become of Larsa, that all hangs by the thread of what we do as we go on. Larsa has a sound plan, but it's a plan with holes that we will get into once we get to Biomenes. I won't get into it now because I want to see if you guys can work out the holes in it as we go, because it's kind of like you start to notice the issues with the plan, like on a more like subconscious level. You start to sit there and go, something about this just doesn't feel right, which is what happened to me on both my first run, and I was reminded of quite heavily on my recording run for this. But I'm going to shift subject now, because in this area you're introduced to the to your first kind of Marlboro, and Marlboro are infamously terrifying enemies of the series, and although they're not as powerful, you still need to be aware of them and take them seriously at every single encounter. Marlboros, their main function is that their focus is to set status conditions on you, and set them fast. The earlier versions of them in 12 aren't as big of a threat because they can only cast them to you one at a time, but stronger versions will have access to an infamous skill called Bad Breath. Bad Breath is what made Marlboro so terrifying, and it's in the older games every single version of Marlboro had them. What makes Bad Breath so terrifying is that every single negative status effect in the game will be inflicted on you at once if it connects. So you'll be hit with poison, sleep, sap, so you'll be losing health, well also with poison losing health, disease, so any health you lose will also take away from your main health, stop, so you can't act, immobilize, so even when you can act you can't actually do anything, disable, so you can't move, well sorry, disable and immobilize are the other way around, zombie, I don't know if zombie is actually in this game, I'd have to double check, but zombie makes it so you're counted as dead but you'll still attack. Berserk, so if you do recover from everything that's stopping you attack, you won't be able to control them anyway because you'll just be blindingly attacking. Petrify, so you'll be slowly being turned to stone, so by the time immobilize and disable wear off, you'll probably be turned to stone. And a couple others that I just can't remember. But if any of that sounds like, oh wow, you're just set up for death, yes, that's exactly what it is, and why Bad Breath is terrifying. And because of the nature of how this game functions, when an enemy has access to Bad Breath, it could easily hit your whole team, and if it hits your whole team, you need to swap someone out then and there to just get a remedy on them. Because otherwise they'll just die. You're just setting them up for death, you're just waiting for the demise. But as you go to explore the Golmore jungle, you'll soon discover you can't travel much further, to which Fran gets her spotlight.
No. I...
What's that mean? How are we supposed to get through that?
Making an appearance?
Come on, I'm talking over here.
I thought you'd left for good.
Hey!
Our choices are few.
Friend? Balthier!
This is as much for you as it is me.
Oh?
You are ill at ease. The Nethicite troubles you. You've let your eyes betray your heart.
Right.
What are you doing?
Soon you will learn.
Whoa.
We go to seek aid of the Viera who dwell ahead.
I bet they'll be glad to see you after so long.
I am unwelcome, an unsought guest in their wood. In the village ahead, you will find her, Mjern. Bring her to me. She will know why you call her.
And welcome to Uryut's village. Fran's home. Which is why I said where now Fran's suddenly going to get a little bit of the spotlight. Not for long, because one of my criticisms of this game is how little time they give Fran, despite the fact that her backstory is actually pretty interesting. But she is unwelcome in her own home village. And if you've been paying attention to some of the subtle cues, And Balthier straight up telling you when you, well, kind of telling you when we first met him way back when. The reason why she is unwelcome is because she's from a race of people that are very protective of themselves. They stay to themselves and they are not allowed to leave. But Fran decided to leave to live with the Humes anyway. She decided of her own free will that she did not want to be with the trees any longer. She wanted to experience the world, and so left, after, whether before or after meeting Balthier, but she left to explore the world, and thus lost her right to be welcomed here. She left on bad terms, essentially. And so is the fate of anyone who dared to lead the wood. But this is what I meant. There's even better equipment that you can buy now from these Mughals. These are the Mughals that you actually saved if you opened their prison cell in the Leviathan way back when, after we just saved Ash. So there is extra benefits to saving them then and there. But Fran won't go any further than the door with you until you speak to who you need to speak to. In fact, on the other side of this, when we're done, she will also go back to... She won't enter here unless she really has to. She just stands by the door. She knows she is unwelcome, so doesn't want to, I guess, but attack old wounds. So after a bit of equipment cleanup, we do start going in looking for Mjern. I hesitate to sell the ancient sword for ages, and I think I still got it even on my current recording, how far I've gone, because what it has on it is so helpful, and I know it's a one-of-a-kind item. One-of-a-kind items you always see me be more hesitant to sell unless I really know they're going to be worthless. Like the golden amulets and the embroidered tepets, the things that give you double license points and double experience, they can't be brought as far as I'm aware. So you're never going to see me sell them. Even when we max out on license points and max out on experience, I'm still not going to sell them just because they're one of a kind. Well, I say that, when I hit level 99, if I hit level 99 as literally everyone, then maybe I'll sell it. But I've got a feeling by the time I'm at that stage, I'll have more than enough money that it won't matter anyway. If you talk to the other guy, he will offer to sell you a map for both the woods and the village, so you might as well. Like, I don't do it at first because I just wasn't aware at first, but it is absolutely worth talking to him and getting the map for both the village and the jungle, because then you can see what areas are going to be optional and what areas are going to be mandatory. Because there is two exits outside of Golmore Jungle, ignoring where we've been to. Like, there's the exit back to the Osmond Plain to the west, to the north is to the Uryut village, to the east is continuing on to where we need to go to Baromenes, and to the south is an optional dungeon that is going to be far tougher than what we are prepared for. But as you can see, they're not welcome of outsiders, because all of them have got up, stopped to look at us as we have entered, being a Hume, whilst Fran remains lingering back behind, as you can tell. And if you speak to any of the residents of Uryut village here, or Uryut village, all of them will be very dismissive, or will either be very dismissive of you, or openly tell you to go away, because they don't want you here. You are not welcome. You are unwelcome in the wood. She who will suffer Humes will walk the verdant's path. Yeah, we will not consult with others. Leave us. Listen, they're pretty fucking racist. They don't like Humes, but they're justified in their own sense, or if they just want to be away from the rest of the world, so aren't appreciative of people entering it. It's less that they just hate the outside world, it's more they don't want to be a part of it, so they don't want the outside to push into theirs. But if you ask around, you can find people like Nera here who will actually respond to you and talk to you, even if they still are quite dismissive. The ones with actual names are usually the ones that will actually speak to you, even if they're still more dismissive. And the ones with names are the ones you want to vaguely try and remember, because they're the ones that are going to have elite marks, or just marks in general, for you to access later on. So you might as well pay attention to their names now, so you can find them easier later on. Same with Reyna here. There's even sword maidens, so they've even got like guards to defend them if need be. which I think is actually pretty cool. Like, they're not completely peaceful. They're peaceful if left alone, but they will defend their land because they have got warriors. There's a lot of lore that you can learn subtly by talking to each of them. Like, even though all of them will tell you where to stick it, a lot of them will give you tiny little bits that you can piece together. Quite an interesting amount of lore here. Like, yes, I've given you the most of it already, but there's a reason why Fran is so painfully hesitant to push in. It's because it's not just a matter of the fact that she left to become a Hume, is that she'll be treated as such now. She is a traitor Hume, and the residents here can do something very interesting. They have a talent that when Fran left, she over time lost, and she no longer has access to in any sense of the word. But as we push onwards towards the end, we are about to get yet another cutscene, elaborating on what I've said.
Hey, Mjorn lives here, doesn't she? We're here to see her.
You will leave at once. It is not allowed for Humes to walk on these grounds.
We'll go as soon as we've seen Mjorn.
If you can find her.
We're not leaving until you let us see her. Fine then. We'll look for her ourselves.
Ah.
I've heard the voice of the wood. She says Mjorn is not in the village. Jote, where has she gone?
Why do you ask? The wood tells us where she has gone. Or can you not hear her? You cannot. Your ears are dull from hearing their harsh speech, I think. Viera who have abandoned the wood are Viera no longer. Mjorn too has left her embrace.
And you forsake them in turn?
It is the will of the village. Viera must live always with the wood. So is the green word, and so is our law.
We'll let you worry about keeping your laws. Just do us a favor and stay out of our way. We'll find her ourselves.
Our sister has left the wood and gone west. She wanders warrens among men who hide themselves in clothes of cold iron. Thus to me has the wood spoken.
The Viera may begin as part of the wood, but the wood is not the only end we may choose.
The same words I heard 50 years ago.
The start of this cutscene is actually far smarter than you might have first realised. What I mean by this is that when Fran approached, she said that the wood had told her that Mjorn wasn't here where she had gone. Where had she gone? And her bluff was immediately called. When Fran left the wood no longer spoke to her. So she can't hear anything from her. From the wood. The wood itself will never speak to her. So Fran straight up lied. She assumed that Mjorn had gone, so then that the people here could get her to go away, essentially. And it only worked in her favour that the response that the head mistress, that's the only word I can think to call her, responded with, yes, she is gone, but you'd only know where if the wood is. So she'd already given it away and answered Fran by saying, yes, she is gone, before then calling Fran's bluff and saying, I know you can't hear the wood, you've been abandoned. So there was a challenge of intelligence. There was a battle of intelligence that only went on for a couple lines, yet was so precise and yet so viciously strong in being effective. Then added to Varn challenging her and saying, "Look, we'll be out of your way if you just give us what we want." Balthier actually compliments Varn for it, because Varn actually did put in the right sense. Shame Varn's about to ruin it with the rest of this cutscene, but we'll get to that.
Maybe that's what she meant. They lie in Bangkor, south of the Osmoan Plain. The entire region is a colony of the Arcadian Empire. There would be soldiers.
Is that a problem? Let's move.
Fran,
Yes?
I was wondering what Yote said, you know? About how you said the same thing 50 years ago?
Your point?
How old were you again?
Nice fun.
Surprisingly rude.
Try to grow up, please.
And just like that, Varn throws away any respect he just earned her. Anyway, next time on Final Fantasy XII, we'll be looking for Mjörn in the Hen Mine, since she seems to have gone off by herself. Worrying as that may be, I will see you then. Take care now.